Hello everyone, so over the weekend I attended the 2019 Toronto Veg Fest, and overall I'd say I had a great time. I got to eat great food, I met up with friends, and I also got to meet and talk to a lot of fans of mine. But things didn't go quite as planned. I was actually scheduled to speak at the Veg Fest on a panel about being a vegan and being an athlete, but at the last minute I was kicked off the panel due to the VegFest organizers accusing me of being a violent, racist, misogynist homophobe. And of course, these are very serious claims being made against me. It could harm my personal reputation, it could make it difficult for me to work with other animal rights organizations in the future, it could even harm my business and overall reputation. So I'm not only making this video to defend myself, to protect my reputation and my business, but I see this as a growing issue in the animal rights and vegan community. A lot of these animal rights organizations, including the Toronto Vegetarian Association, they're being led by far left-wing intersectional activists, and if you disagree with any of their political beliefs, like intersectionality, they will publicly shame you, publicly make lies about you, accuse you of being a racist, homophobe, bigot, in an attempt to get you deplatformed, shut down, and to bar you from any of these animal rights events. And this not only happened to me, but this also happened to a personal friend of mine. Some of you may know of him as Ask Yourself. He runs the YouTube channel Ask Yourself. He's a vegan animal rights activist. And he had a speaking engagement and workshop set up to teach vegans on formal logic and how to debate meat eaters. And these far left-wing intersectionalists got his event shut down by accusing him of being a racist, bigoted homophobe when none of those things are true. So I'm not only making this video to defend myself, but also to defend any other animal rights activists that this is happening to, and to resolve this sort of issue that I see as a growing problem in the vegan community. And just to make things clear before we get into this video, all of the people that I'm going to discuss and criticize, they're all either public figures, they're involved with the Toronto Vegetarian Association in some capacity, or they're involved with this slander campaign against me. So I am going to be mentioning a few people by name, but the only reason I'm mentioning them by name is because they're public figures, they're a part of the Toronto Vegetarian Association, they have been involved in slandering me, and I'm just mentioning them to protect my reputation, to argue against some of the accusations they've levied against me. I'm not mentioning them to dox them or harass them in any way, and I recommend that after you watch this video and you take issue with any of these people and what they've done, don't contact them, don't harass them. I would recommend, if you do have an issue with these people, just contact the Toronto Vegetarian Association and leave a polite message saying that you don't agree with what they're doing. So first of all, here's email evidence that I was invited to speak at the Toronto Veg Fest. So Mark Montalcino was the one who contacted me, and this message was sent on August 9th. So he says, I am writing on behalf of the Toronto Vegetarian Association. One of my roles is to organize and host an athletes panel event, which will take place during our annual Veg Food Fest next month. I wanted to reach out to invite Richard to participate on the panel if his schedule allows. The panel will take place on Sunday, September 8th from 4 to 5 p.m. at the Harbourfront Centre in Toronto. Let me know if Richard might be interested, and I can provide further information. Thanks. And of course, we agreed to, show up to the Veg Fest and speak on the panel. So I don't know what Mark does in the Toronto Vegetarian Association exactly, but he did mention that he's one of the organizers, at least for this event, and I have seen him in the Toronto Vegetarian Association's blog, so he does seem to play a relatively active role in that organization, and he was the one who reached out and contacted me in the first place. And what's also important to note is he contacted me on August 9th, a full month before my speaking event was supposed to take place. So you'd think if he had any issues with me personally, if he had any issues with the content I've posted online, he would have been able to tell me well in advance, like, hey, sorry, but we found this out about you, your speaking event has been canceled. But no, instead, the day before I was supposed to speak, he sent me an email accusing me of bigotry, homophobia, racism, all of that. So then on September 7th, Mark Monachino contacted us again saying, "Hi Jasmine, it was brought to the attention of the Toronto Vegetarian Association that Richard's prior online conduct is not in line with our mission and vision. Unfortunately, we feel it is best that Richard no longer participates in the panel. Thanks for your understanding." My wife Jasmine then asked, "Can you be more specific? This sounds ridiculous. He was on the panel today too." So I was actually on a different speaking panel the day before. I was on the influencers panel. Nothing went wrong. Nobody complained as far as I know. So it was very strange that they'd allow me on a speaking panel the day before, but then the day before I was about to speak again, they bring this up. Sounds ridiculous. And then Mark responded, "Sure, I will explain further, and my apologies for the sudden change. The Veg Food Fest coordinators were contacted by several individuals from the public who are displeased with Richard's presence on the panel today and on the scheduled panel tomorrow. These individuals cited dialogue from current and prior videos posted online by Richard, and the subject matter/nature of this dialogue suggested that Richard would not be a suitable panelist for an event that is intended to embody the TVA's mission/vision. Thanks." So then I said, "This is Vegan Gains. What specifically were the complaints? Does this have anything to do with political beliefs that I have relating to intersectionality and so on?" Then Mark responded, "The complaints were related to a variety of negative behaviors, including violent threats, fat phobia, causing casual racism, misogyny, and other hate-motivated actions. It's unfortunate that we had to make this decision, but as a charitable organization, the TVA needs to be receptive to this type of feedback and act accordingly." So then I responded, "So instead of talking to me and providing any kind of proof for these claims, you just let random people make up whatever bullshit they want to kick me off. So this is ridiculous. He's claiming members of the public complained, and rather than talking to me about it, rather than providing any evidence of these accusations, they just say, 'Yeah, it's true, you're gone.'" So then he replied, "If we had any question about the validity of these complaints, we certainly would have discussed it with you first, but they seem to be in line with our observations of your past online conduct. Sorry about it, Richard. I understand it is frustrating and might seem unfair, but the decision was not easy, and we have to be extra mindful of concerns like this. Thanks again." So this makes absolutely no sense. Mark is suggesting that a bunch of people complained about my presence at the Veg Fest, citing sexism, misogyny, racism as some of the things I'm guilty of. And Mark is claiming that, yeah, he knows of my content and he agrees with these accusations. So if that's the case, why did you invite me onto the panel in the first place? So you're telling me a month ago you were okay with my bigotry, racism, and hatred, but now after people complained, you're not okay with it? So something isn't quite adding up here. And as for these accusations, starting with violent threats, I do not make violent threats against people. Sometimes, if someone questions my strength or my manhood, I'll challenge them to a boxing or MMA match, but that is not a violent threat. That is just challenging them to a sporting event, as boxing and MMA are just sports. Challenging somebody to a boxing match, it's no different than challenging somebody to a basketball game. And one example of this is when I was responding to Isaac Butterfield. He called me a pussy, and then I challenged him to a MMA match.
To find out more about speciesism, let's go to the biggest pussy on the internet. Yes, he's back, ladies and gentlemen. Please make welcome back to the channel for the first time in about a year, Vegan Gains!
So Isaac Butterfield called me a pussy. Well, I noticed that you are doing a worldwide tour for your stand-up comedy or whatever, if you can call it that, and apparently you're going to be stopping by the United States. I live in Canada, but I am pretty close to the border, so I guess when you have your whole schedule sorted out, I guess we can meet up sometime, maybe find a boxing or MMA gym, and find out who the real pussy is. So no, that's a lie. I don't just violently threaten people. The only time I've ever threatened anyone was years ago. This had to have been like 4 years ago by now, where a YouTuber named Repsion was filing false copyright claims against me. He nearly had my YouTube channel taken down, and YouTube is my main source of income, so he almost destroyed my job, my business, And at the time, I got so frustrated that I said something that I really do regret saying now. But I eventually apologized to him. He did accept my apology, and we're friends now. And I also made a public apology about this. So this guy tried to destroy, like, my YouTube career when it was, just starting to pick up. And I was super, super pissed about it. So I went on Twitch. I just started Twitch streaming at the time. Then somebody asked me about Mr. Repsion, and I was just so fuming mad about the whole situation when I was streaming. I said something really fucking stupid that I really didn't mean, that I shouldn't have said. I said I just want to slit his throat, and it's really stupid. I wasn't thinking. It was probably one of the dumbest things I've ever done, and I'm sorry. Like, I didn't mean to say that, and, Mr. Repsion deserves an apology. I'm sorry, Repsion, for threatening you, and, you don't deserve that. So, again, these people are liars. They're making me out to be this crazy, violent person who just threatens everyone. I'm a ticking time bomb. Well, no, obviously that's not true. I don't threaten people. One time I made a mistake years ago because in a fit of rage, somebody was trying to destroy my business. I said something that I regret. I'm sure plenty of other people have been in that situation before. And even after I publicly apologized for it, I apologized to the person I wronged. Even though he forgave me, we're friends now, apparently this is still a problem years later. And this is what these far left-wing social justice warriors do. If you have anything in your past, they'll dredge it up, use it against you today, no matter how long it's been, no matter whether or not you've apologized for it. And eventually it's going to get to a point where no one will be able to do anything. All of these speaking events will be canceled. Everyone will be canceled because, guess what? Everyone has something in their past that they regret. And the next accusation made against me was fat phobia. Well, I run a health and fitness channel. I teach people how to lose weight, how to gain muscle. I've criticized the fat acceptance movement. If that makes me fat phobic, then okay. I don't know why they're even promoting some athletes panel at the Veg Fest, since guess what? If you want to be an athlete, you can't be fat, so why did you even invite me to an athletes panel in the first place, since an athletes panel, by its very nature, is fat phobic? The next accusation they made against me was casual racism. I have no idea what they mean by casual racism. I guess there's a difference between somebody who does it casually and professionally. I don't know, but obviously I'm not a racist. I've spoken out against racism. I criticized the YouTuber Sfarage for promoting racism.
My recent trip to Ukraine made me realize why, after over 8 years of living in Germany as a Latvian, I still don't feel at home here. I felt more at home after 3 days of being in Ukraine than I ever did here. Why? It has nothing to do with the culture or the language, because those are man-made and have absolutely no meaning in nature. But even if you believe that it has some meaning, I grew up with German, so technically I should feel absolutely at home here, but I don't. It's because 99% of the people I was surrounded by in Ukraine were white. Kids who still have their natural senses point with fingers when they see a human of a different race. If a Finnish kid sees somebody from Africa for the first time, then they will believe that it's a different creature, because they see that they are completely different in every way. This is what you can call natural racism.
So Sfarage is just blatantly advocating for racism. He thinks you should be afraid of people who aren't the same skin color as you. It's only natural. And he explicitly stated at the beginning of the video that it's only because of skin color. He dislikes people of different races only because of the color of their skin. It's not because their language is different or their culture is different. There's just something about brown skin that just, sick. Also, a huge vegan social media influencer, Fully Raw Christina. She has over 1 million subs on her YouTube channel. She is friends with a crazy, racist, Holocaust-denying Hitler supporter named John Rose, and she has repeatedly supported him and his channel, and I'm one of the few people to call her out for promoting this racism and bigotry. Fully Raw Christina didn't only have John Rose on her channel to talk about raw veganism. That's not all that happened. She spoke of John Rose in an incredibly flattering manner, and remember, this is a guy who is an anti-Semitic, pro-Nazi Hitler supporter.
Okay, ready?
I'm ready.
I'm sweating. I know we're
That's
all
why I
sweating.
took my shirt off. I was out here a little
I know,
longer.
it's good. The ladies will love it.
All right.
Just keep the shirt off. I'll keep my shirt on.
Okay.
You keep your shirt off.
We'll work.
So, let's look at how amazing this human being is for a second.
With an open mind, within 5 minutes, you can prove the Holocaust is a scam.
Hey guys, I'm so glad that John came to be on this video with me today. Like, if you guys have appreciated him coming, please give this video a thumbs up. And if you guys want to check out his videos, he just started his YouTube channel not too long ago. Let's go support him, show him some love. John, tell him where they can find you.
My YouTube channel is John Rose. Just type in John Rose YouTube channel.
And I'll put that link right here.
Hitler was pretty nice to the Jews after what the Jews did to Hitler.
So isn't that funny? When huge vegan social media influencers like Fully Raw Christina, who has over 1 million subs on YouTube, is friends with a pro-Nazi, Holocaust-denying Hitler supporter, she's not banned from any events. Where's the uproar against Fully Raw Christina? But oh, when I speak out against racism, I'm called a racist? You people are the biggest liars imaginable. And the next accusation they made was misogyny. Well, if you just take a look at my YouTube channel, you will see that I have tons of videos supporting women's rights. I have an innumerable amount of videos, live streams, and debates discussing the topic of abortion. Obviously, I am pro-choice, and I've made many videos, many live streams, and I've debated people promoting pro-choice, women's rights to have an abortion. And I've also debated far right-wing morons who think women shouldn't have a right to vote. And of course, I'm on the side of women having a right to vote. So weird how I'm this misogynist. Misogyny, by the way, means woman hater. So weird how I hate women, yet I want to protect their fundamental human rights. Cool story. And apparently I'm also guilty of other hate-motivated actions. Funny how you're not willing to specify what those actions were. So, it's obvious that you're lying. I've proven that every accusation you've made against me is just a bullshit lie, and it's clear that the only reason I was taken off the discussion panel at the VegFest is because I don't agree with your stupid, far-left-wing, intersectional SJW politics. And, again, this guy Mark claimed that members of the public complained about me, and they were the ones responsible for getting me taken off the VegFest panel. Well, guess what? One of those people were smart enough to out himself as one of the people who complained and is responsible for getting me taken off the panel. The guy's name is Darren Chang, and he made a post about it on Facebook. He shared information that he could not have known if he wasn't one of the people responsible for getting me kicked off the panel. And just to give you some background on Darren Chang, he calls himself an animal rights activist when really he's just a far left-wing intersectionalist. He has at least one video on YouTube where he talks about who he is, his background, what he does as an animal rights activist, and he also was interviewed in Vice News. But this is a regular thing that he does. I'm not the first person he's done this to, where he tries to publicly slander people. You can find other Facebook posts he made where he tried to attack other animal rights activists, basically suggesting that they're sexist, misogynist, racist, or what have you. So here's a great example of Darren targeting animal rights activists, falsely accusing them of bigotry in an attempt to slander them, harm their reputations, and get them banned or deplatformed from different animal rights groups. So he says in a Facebook post, "Are these the kinds of politics and people you want representing animals and the animal advocacy movement? Asking for the animals and the movement." Yeah, I'm sure animals give a crap about your stupid intersectional bullshit SJW crap. So he linked a screenshot from Azal Alamandari. So she's one of the founders of Anonymous for the Voiceless, a great animal rights organization. And she said in a Facebook post, "Refer to someone as a dick and nobody gets offended. Use pussy and all the feminists/intersectionalists come out of the woodworks. If this is not sexism, what is it?" So this woman has clearly had issues with intersectionalists, just being annoying, getting in her way of animal advocacy, and she's just venting about it. "If I call someone a dick, it's not because I hate men's genitals and want to disrespect them. Same thing applies to women's genitals. It's just a figure of speech. Get over it." Very fair point, but clearly this guy, Darren Chang, is just going after her because she's obviously voicing her opinions against feminism and intersectionality. So he's going after her for no other reason than because she disagrees with his bullshit political views. And he did the same with Isaac. Isaac made a post on Facebook saying lots of raging pussies commenting on this post. Big deal. So you think animals actually care if these people say the words pussies? I don't think so, Darren. So I hope that gives you a good idea of who this Darren Chang guy is. He regularly goes after animal rights activists, trying to slander them and get them deplatformed whenever they disagree with his intersectional SJW politics. So we're going to go through his Facebook post and look at the lies he made up about me and rebut each of his claims point by point. That awkward moment when somehow Richard Burgess, aka Vegan Gains, who has some of the most oppressive garbage politics, got invited to a vegan influencers panel at Veg Food Fest. So again, Darren is lying about me, claiming that I have oppressive garbage politics, whatever the hell that means. Like I showed you before, I'm in favor of women's rights. I've defended women's rights to vote. I've criticized the far right for being misogynist and racist. I even go up against big, huge social media influencers like Fully Raw Christina, who has at least indirectly supported racism. So where exactly are my garbage, oppressive politics, Darren? Then Darren claims that I decided to publicly and disruptively shame a Veg Food Fest organizer during a Q&A on a separate panel for having been vegetarian for 5 years and not yet vegan by repeatedly accusing her of participating in the rape and torture of animals while organizers and security guards tried to remove him. And of course, Darren lied multiple times. So first he claimed that I decided to publicly and disruptively shame a VegFest organizer. Well, first of all, they offered anyone to go up to the microphone and ask any question they want, which is what I did. So I don't know how I was being disruptive when they offered anyone to go up and speak and ask any question they wanted.
And representing all. Thank you so much, all four of you, for going through those. We'd love to hear from you, your questions, your ideas. There is a microphone there. We've got about 10 minutes. If there's any questions or thoughts from you, we'd love to hear them.
Hi, so Darren's trying to make it look as if, man, I just crashed the stage, I stole a microphone, I disrupted the whole event, I threw everything off the rails. No, they had an open mic, they had an open Q&A session. Anyone could go up to the microphone and ask any question they wanted, so I didn't disrupt anything. And secondly, Darren claims that I shamed the VegFest organizer because she was vegetarian for 5 years and not yet vegan, as if this is somehow a bad thing. So, like in all situations, context matters. This woman claimed that she is an intersectionalist, and during her session on stage when she was talking, she said specifically that we should treat animals the same way we treat people.
One last concept I'd like to ask about before we hear from you, your questions and your ideas, is this idea of intersectionality that we talk about as a board from time to time. And Steph, I'm wondering if you could start us off on this. First, by just making sure we're all on the same page. What do we mean by intersectionality? And then what does it mean for this festival going forward?
So intersectionality, to me, is making sure that the same compassion that we exhibit for animals we're giving to each other.
So this woman claimed that she believes in intersectionality, she cares about all of these different intersecting paths of oppression, and she also believes that we should give animals and people the same level of respect. But then she willingly supports rape, torture, and murder by consuming dairy and eggs.
And when a dairy cow is finally too physically and emotionally exhausted to continue on, she collapses. These cows are called downers, and they are dragged out by whatever means to be killed and sold for beef. You see, the dairy industry is the meat industry. Almost every single dairy cow that you will ever buy milk that came from ends up being killed for meat. So if you're vegetarian, you might want to think about this, because at least when you're being raised for meat, you're just raised for meat and killed. But when you're a dairy cow, you are sexually exploited and emotionally and physically exhausted until you can't take it anymore, and then you're killed for meat. Sounds worse to me.
So I made the very fair point when I got up to the microphone. Hi, so I believe your name is Steph, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so I think the point you brought up about intersectionality was kind of interesting, especially since you're vegetarian, not vegan, correct?
I am.
Okay, so if you, like you did just mention that we should treat animals the way we treat each other. So would you rape, murder, and exploit other people? Like the way you support the rape, murder, and exploitation of cows and chickens?
I don't think that's a helpful question.
No, it is. No, it absolutely is. So this is a vegan event,
what
correct?
What we're trying to achieve with this
event.
is...
What we're trying to achieve with this event is to promote veganism, correct? Not exploitation of animals. So one of your organizers here supports the exploitation of animals, and especially since she believes in intersectionality, I think it's extraordinarily hypocritical for her to claim that, oh, well, you know, it's wrong to, you know, rape, objectify, and all this stuff, but you are in fact supporting rape, exploitation, murder with your food choices.
We've heard your point. We appreciate your point.
Well, no. I'd actually like her to actually respond to the question, because I think I do have a valid point.
Sure. So like I mentioned, the TVA as an organization tries to meet people wherever they are on their journey. So whether...
How many years have you been vegetarian?
5.
Okay, so in those 5 years you haven't figured out how to give up milk and eggs.
So we like to meet people wherever they are.
Okay, so
on their
in those
journey.
5, okay, so in those 5 years, no, in those 5, so in those 5 years you haven't discovered how to not include milk and eggs in your diet. You haven't discovered how to just eat soy milk and not eat eggs and like make tofu scramble instead.
We've heard your point. Thank you for your point. We're asking you to sit down now, please.
Okay, well, she hasn't answered the question. Why do you support the unnecessary...
Responding to your question.
No, she didn't. No, she didn't. She just said she was at a certain point in her journey. No, she just said she was at a certain point in her journey, and I'm asking her, after 5 years of being vegetarian, why is it that you have not been able to discover how to not unnecessarily harm, exploit, rape, murder cows and chickens?
I appreciate where you are in your journey, and I think everybody's at a different stage in their life. And
You've been vegetarian for 5 years.
Please.
Well, what do you mean? I'm actually trying to understand why you think it is okay to unnecessarily cause the rape, murder, and exploitation of chickens.
I don't know that
and
I'm going to
cows.
be able to give you an answer that you're going to accept, so I think the conversation between us is probably...
Well, what do you mean an answer that I'll accept? Just give me an answer.
We don't answer to you, though. Like, you're not the authority that we have to measure our own progress, our own journey again.
Okay, so do you believe it is morally acceptable
Does
to
anyone
cause
else
the
have a
unnecessary
question
rape?
while we're trying to get...
Do you have any?
Yeah.
Do you have?
Yes,
Okay,
a
so
question
do you
over
have?
here.
No, do you have an? Do you
Richard,
have an
please
actual
yield the
excuse?
mic to
No.
somebody
Do you
else.
have? Do you have a reasonable exploitation for unnecessary? Okay.
I'm sorry, I just don't think that it's going to be very effective here. It's maybe a conversation we can have a conversation.
You're a hypocrite. You're a hypocrite. You're a moral hypocrite. You have no reason. No, you have no reason. You have no reason to cause the unnecessary suffering, death, exploitation of animals. No, you're pathetic. No, guess what? No, guess what? Guess what? Guess what? The animals that you cause the unnecessary death, suffering, exploitation of, they have no choice. They cannot run away from what you do to them. You are pathetic. You're running away from what I'm asking you. You're running away from the truth. You're trying to make... You won't even make up an excuse. You're just running away. Okay, then give me a reason for why it's okay to cause the unnecessary suffering, death, and exploitation of cows and chickens. Why is it okay? So you're telling me the way I'm speaking to you is worse than how you treat animals? You're saying rape, murder, and exploitation is better than how I'm treating you? So as you saw in the video, my arguments against her were perfectly valid. If she's going to promote intersectionality, ending oppression, treating animals and humans with the same level of respect, then what's her justification for needlessly supporting exploitation, torture, rape, and murder with her food choices by buying dairy and eggs? And when I presented her with this question, with these arguments, she couldn't give an answer. In fact, she refused to give an answer. She said, I can't give you an answer that will satisfy you. And when I asked her, okay, well, just give me an answer, she didn't. And she just said, well, I'm at a certain point in my journey, which again makes no sense. She's already been vegetarian for 5 years, and she's surrounded by vegans. This woman's name is Steph Davidson. She's one of the Toronto Vegetarian Association's board of directors. So this brings up another important point. The Toronto Vegetarian Association, despite their name, is a vegan organization. They explicitly promote veganism. They don't allow for any non-vegan products to be sold or catered at any of their events. So why is a vegan organization allowing for an animal product consumer to be on their board of directors? But not only that, they're putting somebody on their speaking events, at their panels, who willingly and knowingly supports the unnecessary exploitation, torture, and murder of animals. So it's okay for somebody to speak at your events who willingly supports abuse, who willingly supports animals to be tortured and murdered, but when people make baseless accusations against me that aren't true, I get kicked off. Ridiculous. So then Darren claimed that organizers and security tried to remove me. So the way he worded this, he sounded like it was a violent confrontation where both organizers and security literally had to drag me away from the stage to get me to go. No, this is what actually happened.
How I'm treating you?
So can you please anyone on the panel wants to speak to some of the
Right, exactly. So you're a dishonest coward. No, you're a dishonest coward and a moral hypocrite, especially since you talk about intersectionality.
So we have
Yeah, especially since you talk about intersectionality. You're pathetic.
So the question was about documentaries, and
So nice lies there, Darren. None of the organizers tried to remove me from the stage or the microphone. Only one security guard came by after he asked me to leave twice. I just left on my own. Not exactly the violent confrontation that you made it out to be, you liar. And then he ended his Facebook post with, "This is what happens when the movement as a whole continues to uphold trash while refusing to listen to or actively silences critical intersectional perspectives." So Darren lied again. He claimed I was trying to silence critical intersectional perspectives. Well, as you could see from the video footage, I wasn't trying to silence anyone. All I did was ask a very simple question, and I didn't even criticize her intersectional beliefs. All I did was point out her hypocrisy. If she believes in intersectionalism, if she believes in treating animals and people with the same level of respect, then why is she supporting rape, torture, murder, exploitation with her food choices? She has no excuse. So I find it very telling of Darren's character that he's actually criticizing a vegan for supporting veganism, because in doing so, he had to criticize an intersectionalist. So Darren is actually willing to support animal abuse if that means supporting intersectionalism. So Darren, you're not an animal rights activist. You're, I could call you a lot of things, but you're definitely not an animal rights activist. But if you think that I'm trying to actively silence intersectional perspectives, then you can come on my channel and debate me on intersectionalism anytime you want. We can have a long discussion on intersectionalism, whether or not it's compatible or relates to veganism, and we can even talk about my past and current online conduct, whatever you want. So if you think I'm trying to silence anyone, well, that's just another one of your lies, and I know that you're not going to take me up on this offer. You can, if you want to have this debate, you can message me either through my business email, businessvegangains@gmail.com, or message me on Twitter, but I know you're not going to take me up on this offer because you're a liar. You honestly don't care about any of these issues. You're just a whiny, bratty kid who wants attention. And if you want to create any more lies about me, then go ahead. I'll just be there to prove that you're the liar. Oh, and Darren, if a live debate on intersectionality doesn't interest you, we can always settle our differences in a cage or a boxing ring. So why don't you go complain on Facebook about my toxic masculinity, okay? Hopefully we never meet in person. And if any of you take issue with what happened around the Veg Fest and, me getting deplatformed, then you can just contact the Toronto Vegetarian Association and share your grievances. I'd recommend mentioning Mark Monachino, Steph Davidson, and Darren Chang specifically. They seem to be people who are pretty involved in what happened, so I'd recommend bringing up those names. But keep things civil. I don't want these people getting attacked or harassed. Thanks.